and thank you to FanX for inviting me back. It was 4 years ago since I was here last. And thank you, yeah. Every time I'm here, I think I have got to come and spend more time here because this place is really rad. How you guys doing today? You good? Are you out of your Vulcan minds? Excellent, excellent. So what should we talk about? You please, just if you have a question or anything you'd like to discuss, step up to the microphone and I will lie my weaselly black guts out.
Hi, Karl.
Hey, how are you?
Good. My question for you is, looking at your body of work, do you have you ever taken a job that you wish you hadn't taken?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Thank you for your question. You didn't ask me what it was. Yeah, no, absolutely I have, but I really can't tell you what that job was. Yeah, there have been jobs that have been a little tougher than I'd anticipated. I loved working on Almost Human. Almost Human was a gas. I loved it. Yeah, Michael Ealy and that cast were amazing to work with, but we ended up shooting that 6 days a week, 16 or 17 hours a day. I don't like to work that hard. Nobody should work that hard. So yeah, it's always a leap of faith when you do a job. You never quite know what it's going to be like. But I've been blessed that many of the experiences that I've had have been fantastic, and I've worked with some truly amazing people. So yeah, thank you for your question. Very good. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
So, my name's Elizabeth, and
Correct.
You are one of my all-time favorite actors, and you've had some amazing roles in the past, and I was wondering, how do you choose the roles you want to audition for and hopefully get?
Well, it really depends. I mean, you get to a certain point in your career and you get offered stuff, and that's really fantastic. I think the stuff that you really want to go for, you have to audition for. I think I auditioned for Bones for Star Trek, and that was a pretty, that was a pretty amazing experience. Like, I heard they were doing a reboot, and I really wanted to be a part of it, and so I went and met with JJ Abrams, and I thought the meeting went so bad, and because I went in there and sat down, and we did a little small talk for a bit. Actually, we took the piss out of Dominic Monaghan, who JJ had just killed and lost, and so we had a laugh about that. And so then he sat there and he said, well, do you have any questions? And I said, yeah, what's the story? What's the script? Because I hadn't read it, they weren't giving it out. And he goes, I can't tell you. And I was like, oh, I guess I've got no questions. So he sat there looking at me, and I was looking at him. He goes, well, thank you very much. And I walked out of there going, oh man, I really blew that. But thankfully, I got asked to come back and read for the character of Bones. So I went into the audition room. Again, we chit-chatted, took the piss out of Dominic Monaghan, so we had a good thing going there. I started doing the reading, and all of a sudden I hear this laughter. I'm thinking, what the heck is that? And I suddenly realized it was JJ, and he was laughing at what I was doing. And I hadn't done theatre for a long time, and I wasn't used to it. And it kind of almost threw me. I almost forgot my next line. But I got to the end of it, and he was like, oh my God, that's it, that's Bones. And he goes, well, I guess you better do it again. I did it again. He thanked me. I walked out within 1 hour, like, you're on the ship. Yeah, thank you. And I feel so blessed to be a part of that group. Just such a wonderful, talented, funny group of people, and we really are like a family. And we would be really blessed if we get to make another Star Trek. Fingers crossed. Start your letter writing campaign now to Paramount. Yeah. Thank you very much for your question.
Hey, I'm Mike.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good. Firstly, Dredd.
Yeah.
Thank you. You did it right. Lifelong fan of Dredd, and it's been screwed up before. It was perfect. Is there any truth to the rumor of a sequel or TV show?
Yeah, look, the guys who own the rights to Dredd, Rebellion, have developed a television series called Mega City 1. And I've had some preliminary discussions with them. If they get it off the ground, I would love to come back and portray the character of Dredd again. I think that there's just a wealth of really great stories, of Dredd stories in decades of comics that just beg to be told. So we'll see. Hopefully one day we get to do that. And if not, then that'll be a little bit of a pity. But I'm really kind of proud of Dredd, that it's sort of become this cult little classic. So thank you very much for your question. Thank you.
Hey, Karl, thanks for coming back to Salt Lake City.
Great to be here.
You're the best.
I'm not going to argue with you, but no, you're wrong.
Well, my personal favorite scene in The Return of the King is when Eomer finds Eowyn on the battlefield. And my question is, regarding that scene, what was your headspace going into that, and how did you pull it off so perfectly?
Well, you know what? I just remember thinking, don't screw it up, because I had like everybody from Ian McKellen to Video, everyone had come to watch. So I was really quite anxious, and I didn't really think about it. You just did it. I mean, it was the great thing about Lord of the Rings is that they really went to extraordinary lengths to create Middle Earth around you, whether we were shooting in this glacial valley with Edoras that they actually built. I mean, it wasn't computer generated, so you would actually be in the environment. And certainly I remember that day, there was sort of hundreds of extras, fighting and wounded and dying everywhere, and a big one of those elephant things, Namakai or whatever they are. And we had one of those. What are they? Correct. I knew that. I was just seeing if you knew that. So one of those things lying there. So I mean, it was very easy to take that leap of imagination and transport yourself into that world. So Peter Jackson was, without a doubt, one of the most amazing filmmakers that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. I mean, he's truly gifted and extraordinary, and so it's going to be interesting to see, where Amazon, as you know, has the rights to the Lord of the Rings. I think something like 3,000 years of Tolkien history or something like that. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I'm hoping that they film it in New Zealand, because Middle Earth, to me, it's such a strong character, and it was photographed so brilliantly by Andrew Leslie in the first 3 films. So we'll see. Thank you for the question. Thank you. G'day, how are you, love?
Fantastic.
Hello? How you guys doing down the back?
Bones has been my favorite, always.
Are you out of your Vulcan mind?
Okay, my question's the opposite of the first one. You've done an amazing amount of work in various genres, and I was wondering, is there a role that you would really love to get?
Yeah, a turkey roll or a... I didn't get lunch, and you guys must be hungry. I mean, you must have been here all day. I don't know. You know what? I feel pretty blessed to play the amount of characters that I have, and it would be somewhat greedy to even want for more. At the moment, I guess what I'm most excited about is what I'm doing right now, and that is a Amazon TV series called The Boys. And there's a few fans here. That's going to be on the screen May next year. And I'm playing a character called Billy Butcher. And the show is basically about a group of vigilantes who take on an elite corporation of elite superheroes. So the superheroes in our world are all deeply flawed, corrupt. They represent the bent and twisted 1% of modern pop culture. culture of celebrity society, and so it's our job to take them down. So it's a lot of fun. Thank you. Hey there, how are you?
Hi. So my question was about Thor Ragnarok, and if you could trade roles with anyone on the cast, who would it be?
Wow, that's a good question. If I could trade roles with anyone on the cast? Maybe Kate Blanchett. Wouldn't you like to see Kate Blanchett doing Scourge and Scourge doing Hela? That'd be rad. Yeah. Could wear that big headdress thing. Yeah, we had such a blast working on that. It was so much fun. And I am now getting people presenting me shake weights to sign. Awesome. Thank you, Taika Waititi. Thank you for the question.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Veronica. So quick question. So I grew up watching Judge Dredd when I was a kid. How hard was it for you to take over that role? Like, did you feel any sort of pressure having to, take over that iconic role?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, listen, I mean, I wasn't entirely foreign to the concept of taking a character that's beloved by an audience, whether it's one that was in Tolkien's books or had previously been played before in the terms of Star Trek, and doing something with it. And I certainly put enough pressure on myself to get it right without thinking about how it's going to be received. But that certainly, I feel, the way that I sort of approached it was I'm going to do all the research that I can do and try and be faithful and true to what John Wagner had created. And that was really sort of the genesis to my version of the character. I read one panel in a comic that said his voice sounded like a saw cutting through bone. So I went to a butcher and asked them to cut through a slice of beef. Brisket, no I didn't.
Judgment time. Citizens of Peach Trees, this is Judge Dredd. In case you people haven't forgotten, the rest of my dialogue I have.
Thank you very much. I usually can remember that.
Hey, Karl. I think, as most con-goers, we are fans of getting studio-sanctioned sneak peeks and spoilers. Is there anything that you can tell us that you've got in the pipe or coming down the line that we can get excited about?
Well, great question, but what I just talked about, which was The Boys, which I'm super excited about. We're, I believe, going to premiere some stuff at New York Comic Con. Hasn't been announced yet. You heard it first. I think we're going to New York Comic Con. We're going to bring a whole plethora of guests and giveaways, and we're going to get into The Boys. So it should be pretty exciting. And you're all invited. Yeah. Dude, how are you?
I'm great, and I'm speechless, so great to be here.
Okay, next question.
My question is, will you describe the experience of when you got the part of Eomer in Lord of the Rings?
Wow. How Eomer came to me was I had just done a little New Zealand film called The Price of Milk, and 3 people have seen it. And the director of that was good friends with Peter Jackson, and Harry, he took a rough cut of Price of Milk down to show Peter, and I guess I just dumb luck happened to be in Peter's face when they were looking for someone to cast as Eomer, and I really had actually thought that I'd missed the boat on that, and it was a project that I really wanted to be a part of. I mean, every actor in New Zealand, in the world, wanted to be a part of it. And I just literally randomly got a call one day out of the blue inviting me to be part of it, and I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely stunned and shocked and elated, and it was like one of those pivotal points in your life that you know from this point forward your life will be different, and it was truly humbling. humbling experience. And actually going to work on Lord of the Rings, I mean, 90% of my energy, particularly in those early days, was just calming my nerves. Because, you know, I'd been used to working on small New Zealand films. This thing, I mean, they had a catering budget the size of the budget of a film that I'd worked on. I mean, they were building roads into small, remote parts of the country that nobody had been to before, and the budget of those roads was larger than the budget of the movies that I was working on. So it was a unique and extraordinary experience. And once I became more comfortable within it, you know, I sort of, it just became such a, you know, a cherished time. And I actually, on the plane over here, was flicking through channels, and Fellowship of the Ring was on, and I watched it, and I was just blown away by how good those movies are. And I like that one because I'm not in it. And everybody else is, so I can watch it rather relaxed. Yeah, I mean, it was just an absolutely extraordinary experience. I remember this one time, Vigo had convinced the producers and Peter Jackson that it would be really a great idea to have a dawn shot of Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli running across the plains of Rohan, trying to get the hobbits that have been abducted, Merry and Pippin. And so he convinced a large group of people to come out and would have a big bonfire and get outrageously drunk and have a party. And in the morning, those guys would get up and work, which was great because it wasn't my shot. So that's what we did, and we had a fun night, big huge bonfire, and you know, there was lots of wine and great stories and tales. And I remember getting up to watch the dawn shot. Maybe I didn't even go to bed. And I remember watching Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli running along, and as soon as Orlando Bloom got past the camera, he buckled over and vomited. So just think about that the next time you watch it. Everyone was outrageously hungover that day. Completely professional, no? Completely professional. Thank you for your question.
Hi, Karl. Huge fan, and you have done such a wide range of roles, and you've done such a beautiful job on them. My question is, if there is a role that you've taken on before that you would want to go back to and do maybe just a couple things differently, and if so, which and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know. I've never really thought about going back and changing stuff. I've thought about not doing a couple of projects that I did. But I'd really love to have another, I'd really love to get back together with the gang and do more Star Trek. And do more we have so much fun doing those. It'll be really fantastic to have that opportunity. But we're just waiting to see, you know, sort of, you know, it's in a little bit of a holding pattern at the moment. But they've definitely got options. They've got they've got two scripts. One that's written and one that's being written. So I'm kind of, you know, optimistic and hopeful that one of those will happen. So, you know, I'd love to make more Dredd, obviously. You know, that was a blast. Yeah. So, yeah, and I died in that movie. So I'd love to go back to Thor as well. I mean, Scourge was so much fun to play. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Long time no see. So since you just talked about Star Trek, I'll ask you, there's rumors about Star Trek 4 and Chris Pine not being in it. What's up with that? What's up with that? What do you think it would be like if he wasn't in it?
No, that's not actually the case. See, what happened is that we are, I think, most of us, I'm not sure about Chris Pine, are out of contract. So basically, Paramount have hired a director, they've got a script and a start date, but they're just trying to negotiate the deals with everybody, and sometimes that process takes a little longer. And you know, from what I understand, you know, the concept for this is pretty big, bold, brassy kind of movie. So I'm just quietly optimistic and hopeful that that it will happen, and that's really all I know. That I know nothing further about any updates as to whether it is happening or not. But you know, all I can tell you is the entire cast, really, including Chris Pine, really wants to make another one. So you know, God willing, it'll happen. Thank you. Hey, how are you?
Great. I just had a question about if you had any advice for any like really young, kind of starting out actors that I might be able to take back to some preteens that I might teach. That, we're wondering if like, sorry, I'm stumbling all over my words. If just about starting out and maybe how you handle rejection and how you keep going forward with stuff like that.
Sure. Okay. Advice for young actors. Well, I'll tell you what my father said. You know, when I told him I wanted to be an actor, he said, "No, son, you pronounced it wrong. It's doctor." It's a goodie. Yeah. Who get the last laugh there, right? I'm a doctor now. And it is difficult. I have to really strongly resist the urge when that call goes out. Is there a doctor on board? That would be a mistake. Yeah, okay. I've got some, you know, things that have worked for me. I mean, first of all, I would say no matter what your chosen vocation, desire, or dream is, invest in yourself. Invest in your craft. The more you put in, the better prepared you're going to be. The power of yes. Always say yes. You never know where any opportunity may lead. And it is an opportunity neglected does not often, as a rule, return. And it basically means you should say yes, because you know you might say yes to being a stagehand, and that might lead to something else in lighting, which may end up to directing or producing, and you know, all of a sudden you're Steven Spielberg. You know, you just don't know how the pattern of your life and your career is going to unfold. So always be open to it. And yeah, I just, and also about the power of positivity. Imagine a pond, and you put a drop right in the middle of that pond. And what happens is that like little ripples radiate out towards the edge, right? So you imagine in your life, every interaction that you have with someone is like that pond. And it's up to you to determine whether that is a positive experience or a negative experience. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if it's a negative experience, those ripples of negativity will reach other people, and that will start to limit your opportunity, and your opportunities will shut down. The flip side of that coin is if people hear that you're good to work with, and that you're professional, and you're courteous, that you come prepared, that will get you more work. So, there's my 2 cents worth. Thank you very much. Thank you. And you have to be obstinate. Don't take no for an answer. And whatever it is you do. Someone says no to you, then you know, you're going for something in your career or job or whatever. Find out a way to get over them, around them, under them, to prove them wrong, and just do everything. Leave no stone unturned as well. That's something you particularly have to have as an actor, you know, as you're constantly dealing with no. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Pretty good.
So, the insanity of Judge Dredd, the comic book, versus like the gritty realism that of the movie that you started, you know, they contrast greatly. I was wondering what direction you prefer they went with Mega City 1.
I really can't have an opinion on that, and I don't have an opinion on that because that's their business, and you know, it wouldn't be my place to really comment on that. It's kind of, in many ways, outside my jurisdiction or area of concern. I just know that I would love the opportunity to portray it again, and you know, I'm sure that they would look at, you know, current pop culture and see in terms of tonally what's really connecting and trending with an audience. I mean, I don't think we're going back to Lycra, right? to whatever, and our Dredd was a product of a different time. When Stallone did his, Joel Schumacher was still making, fluorescent Batman movies, and look how far the genre's come. So thank you for your question. Thank you.
Hi.
Hey.
Again.
You were working in the right department.
Yes. I am a giant Star Trek fan. I love your work as Bones. And I was wondering if any of your comments or your lines in Star Trek, any of the films, were improvised.
Yeah.
And so, which ones were they?
Yeah. Well, there are lines that I've definitely contributed. A lot of the time, improvisation can be something that's just not on the page, but for me anyway, more often than not, it's thought out in advance. In the Star Trek 09 film, how Bones got his nickname in there was an original draft of the Star Trek 09 movie where there was some reference to how he got his name, and in the shooting draft it was omitted. And so I went to JJ and pitched him the idea about tagging this all she left me was my bones onto his story about being divorced, and he was like, yeah, sure, let's try it, and and it worked, and it made it into the picture. So that was pretty cool. It's one of the things that I love about working with JJ. He's very open and collaborative. Another one would be in Star Trek Beyond. We got together with Simon Pegg at the beginning of that process, and it was great. It was like having one of the other nutters in the institution running the show. And he goes, listen, if you've got any ideas of anything that you'd like to see your character say or do, please don't hesitate, email me. So he was inundated with a flood of emails from everybody. And there were some great beats that managed to make it into the film that were a result of that process. When I read the script, there was no, I'm a doctor, not a, insert here line. And I pitched him the idea about, wouldn't it be cool if this time he doesn't actually get to say it, that he dematerializes, what is it? Materialize or dematerialize? You should know this stuff. No, it was dematerialized, right? Because he was disappearing. Yeah. You need to go and watch that again. I'm very disappointed. So it's stuff like that, and like there's a sort of whole scene about next time you get a pipe stuck in your solar plexus, call a plumber. I mean that was all that stuff was so. Anyway, thank you very much for your question. I also threw in calling Spock a green-blooded hobgoblin in 09. I just threw that in, JJ loved it. He goes, was that on the original? I'm like, yeah. He wouldn't know. Thank you. Star Wars fan.
Who was the more intimidating co-star for you on Thor Ragnarok?
I feel like there should be a buzzer here.
Chris Hemsworth or Cate Blanchett?
Chris Hemsworth or Cate Blanchett. I didn't really find either of them intimidating. I sort of knew Cate from what's that small New Zealand film that we did? Dude. Lord of the Rings. Some of you might have seen it. I don't know. I knew her a little bit, and Chris. That also I'd known him before from Star Trek 09. It was a lot of fun, I remember some days being on set and it was so rad. It would be like, lined up in chairs, and there'd be Anthony Hopkins and Sam Neill and Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston and everyone's Jeff Goldblum, and everyone's trading stories of misadventure and Hollywood tales, and it was a really fun environment to be around. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Samantha, and dang, I should have gone to the bathroom before this.
how you feel.
Sorry. My question was, what was the hardest script that you have ever had to memorize and learn from any of the parts you've had played?
Wow, I think the Born Supremacy was pretty tricky, although it didn't say a lot. It was in Russian. Those Russians, man, they do things with their tongues that I have no business being in that part of your mouth. Stop thinking of that. There's kids here. What else? I remember in Almost Human, being delivered like literally pages of dialogue on the day we were shooting it. That's always fun. You know, but yeah, it's generally the way that I learn my material is just by reading it over and over again. I don't just sort of sit there and memorize. I just, you know, through whatever the lead-up period is to that shoot day, I just read it over and over again, and it sticks in, thankfully. You may go to the bathroom. No, it's that way. I'm kidding, I got no idea. Hey, how are you?
Good. So when you were cast as the executioner in Ragnarok, what was your favorite part of filming?
Favorite part of filming? I'll tell you what wasn't my favorite part of filming, and that was the pickups that we had to do on the battle sequence at the end. Because when we first started shooting it, we were shooting on the Gold Coast, and it was nice, mild weather. All of a sudden, we're doing reshoots in Atlanta, and it's like 80, 90 plus degrees, and they've constructed this marvelous big fight sequence for Scourge, which I was happy about doing, but just not in that heat, in that costume. It was pretty brutal. I remember, I think I did about 5 takes, and between each take, I would literally be on my knees, because you can't breathe. I mean, you're wearing layers of armor. You know what that's like when you go to school. I remember I did the 5th take, and the director said, "Okay, that's great. We're going to turn around." And I went, "Where's the camera?" And he goes, "It'll be behind you." And I was like, "Stunt double." And I walked off. I'm like, "If you're not seeing this," let the other guy do it. So that was particularly tricky, yeah. But the rest of it was a lot of fun. Thank you for your question.
We'll have time for one more question, guys. One more question.
One more.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah.
What inspired you to become an actor? Why did you choose acting? Was there a movie, a role model? What made you decide that?
Oh wow, that's a great question. What inspired me to become an actor? Well, you know, there were the many actors that I would just define it as a long-standing compulsion, and it seemed like, you know, one of the things my dad did tell me, which I listened to, was that he says if you find something that you really love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. And for the most part, he was true. There are some 16, 17-hour days there where I'm going, yeah, no, got that wrong. But you know, I would just define it as a long-standing compulsion that you know, I'm interested in storytelling, and particularly with, you know, working with a crew to create something that hopefully at the end of the day you can stand back and be proud of what you've done. And so I just remember being always been drawn to it, and I really, you know, and I still enjoy doing what I do, and I really enjoy the opportunity to come here and meet folks like y'all, and it's not until I come into a situation like this that it really registers the sort of a positive effect that the work that I do has, you know, because when I do it, there's just kind of like a myopic little group that we do our thing and we hand it over to you and it's embraced. So yeah, I feel very blessed, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity that your fandom has created in my life. Thank you. No, thank you. And I'll continue to do this until you boot me off the stage.
And a huge round of applause, Karl.
Thank you very much.